Hello, you are watching these hands of Tom from the Dreamcast Junkyard, and you're listening to my voice as well. You lucky people. Again, here's another video you never asked for. This is Dreamcast Magazine, issue 20. This was released on the 22nd of March, 2001. So, after the big announcement that the Dreamcast was being discontinued, that was actually announced in the issue before this one, which was issue 19. And the main story on the front here is Outrigger and some news about Shenmue 2, Soldier of Fortune, and strangely, Virtua Fighter 4. We're not told in this magazine it's coming to the Dreamcast, but it is actually kind of teased. So let's jump in between the pages and have a look what's going on. Editorial wise, it's quite revealing that the editor, Simon Phillips, makes reference to one of the only other unofficial Dreamcast magazine that was being published in the UK at the time, actually closed its doors the month before, and I think that it's referring to DC UK. And so at this point, the only other magazine that was in production was the official UK Dreamcast magazine in the UK. So there was that to make note of. So moving on, we've got the usual content pages, and the main big story here is Virtua Fighter 4. This is a kind of like an exclusive reveal of the first shots of the game. It's quite strange when you think about it that these games were, the exclusive big things of the time. Now I've got Virtua Fighter 4 for the PS2, and you can pick it up in like second-hand shops for like maybe £1 or so. But back then, this was like the big thing. So yeah, again, no issue or hint that it's coming to the Dreamcast. Obviously, it didn't, but it would have been nice if it had done. It would have been a nice swan song for the Dreamcast. Moving on, a preview of Headhunter, really good Metal Gear Solid style game for the Dreamcast. And then in the top right-hand corner, there's some information about a cancelled game called Agartha that apparently was never more than these 3 screenshots that you always see repeated over and over again in the different previews. And then down here in the bottom right, we've got some information about Bomberman Online. That was an American exclusive. Moving on, we have Evil Twin, big preview there. It's a pretty good game. Again, that was an exclusive, but this time for the European market, and does actually fetch quite a lot when it comes up on eBay these days. Some nice little snippets here, some information here about Sega working with Nintendo on the GameCube, making a couple of games for it. And here in the bottom left, there's some information about the Sega Cara, the Dreamcast karaoke unit, one of which I do own. Just say that it's released in the next couple of weeks. So it obviously came out around March, April 2001. It's quite late in the Dreamcast's life. Information there about Alien Front Online. Okay, moving on. We have information here about the Electronics Boutique Online Game Awards. Not online games, but because it was an online store. And the Dreamcast basically swept the board. It got the best console of the year. Shenmue got best graphics. Space Channel 5 got a most original game. Dead or Alive 2 got best fighting game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 best sports game. Rayman 2 best platform game. And Crazy Taxi got best Dreamcast game of 2000. So all in all, a good set of awards really for the Dreamcast at the Electronics Boutique Online Awards. Information about Paragon Brothers. If you've been reading things like Polygon and other games websites, you will have seen that the DLC for Paragon Brothers was recently released for the game online. That's down to Dreamcast Live or PC Wizard. He's a fellow YouTube type person. Check out his channel. It's Dreamcastic channel. New shots of Crazy Taxi 2, and let's keep going, shall we? First shots of Conflict Zone, and this is interesting. I have mentioned this before on the Dreamcast Junkyard on the main blog site. This was the story that Sega had teamed up with a company called Pace, who make set-top boxes, and they were going to put Dreamcast technology inside these boxes, or the next generation of them, where you could kind of download games. It's kind of almost like a forerunner to what we have now, but back in sort of 2001, downloading games to a console is nothing new now, but back then it was kind of unheard of. and this paste box with Dreamcast hardware inside it. I'm not sure if a prototype exists, maybe it does, but we never got it. It never came to market. The only thing that exists is a couple of shots of, for example, here we've got a shot of the Dreamcast controller with a paste set-top box. Whether or not that's even a working prototype, who knows? Probably not. But yeah, that's very interesting. Again, I will put, as I always do, scans of this magazine up on the Dreamcast Junkyard main website. Okay, moving on. Soldier of Fortune still coming. This is about Sega Sports Jam coming to the Dreamcast again. That was only released in the United States and Japan. We didn't get it in Europe. This is quite unusual for a mainstream, or I say mainstream inverted commas magazine to feature something about emulation, which is quite a shady subject even today. And even here they're talking about burning CDRs of emulators and putting ROMs on them. So it mentions things like the SNES emulator, Mega Drive, Neo Geo, Pocket, Game Boy Advance. And down here we've got some info on Choo Choo Rocket coming to the Game Boy Advance. Weirdly, I've actually just been playing that, as you can see here on my Game Boy Micro. It's in demo mode at the moment. I'll have to turn that off so the battery doesn't run out. But yeah, I was playing Choo Choo Rocket there. So yeah, there's that. Moving on, another game missing in action, no pun intended. Commandos 2. As far as I'm aware, this game was very, very close to completion when it was cancelled. Whether or not an actual build exists out in the wild, it must do. Come on, somebody must have it. But yeah, Commandos 2 for the Dreamcast, getting a nice little preview. Ooga Booga, and also an information or story here about EA and Sega having a bit of a war of words in the press. Moving on, new details about Shenmue 2, Virtual Tennis 2 details with the female tennis players. Big advert here for gameplay. Okay, Japanese news or import news. This is about the Arcade Operators Union. It's a big show in Japan where they were showing off some new arcade games. And yeah, there's information here about NCAA college football coming out for the Dreamcast, and also WoW Games, making mobile games. Okay, moving into the proper preview section now. Here we've got Pro Pinball Trilogy, Coaster Works, and Charge and Blast. Grand Prix 3, or Jeff Cramman's Grand Prix 3, one of the most famous games that was said to be coming to the Dreamcast, which never actually saw the light of day. Whether any work was even started on the Dreamcast version, I don't know. But I can pretty much guarantee that these are PC shots and not anything running on a Dreamcast. Iron Aces, which did come out, and it's quite good. Evil Dead Hail to the King, which did come out and isn't very good. Likewise with Carrier, not a fan. Rogue Spear. See, the thing about Rogue Spear is I like the concept and I do like tactical shooters, but I find Rogue Spear and the original Rainbow Six on the Dreamcast to be very difficult to play just because of how bad they look. They look like PC versions of the game, but with all the settings put to low. Very, very angular character models, and just it has kind of like a weird, like a flickering effect on the screen. The screen seems to like move like jarringly like that. It's hard to explain. Okay, this is the cover story now. We've got Outrigger, cool arcade first-person and third-person shooter. Planet Harriers. This is just like a preview of an arcade game, which is the sequel to Space Harrier, and was rumoured to be coming to the Dreamcast again. Didn't come out, and it's one of those games that if the Dreamcast had lived on for maybe a couple more years, we probably would have had a port. Competition here to win a copy of Vanishing Point. Great game if you did not already own it. And then we're moving into the review section. So Skies of Arcadia, one of those games that's held up as a, it's championed as one of the best games on the Dreamcast. I have to admit, I've never actually played it, even though I own it. I just don't, doesn't appeal to me. And that got 94%. Daytona 2001, game I do actually quite like. 90%. NBA Hoops, not a big fan of basketball, but it's a decent arcade game, I suppose. 88%. Final Vipers 2, 65%. That's quite a low score, but it is quite a basic, bare bones fighting game. ECW Anarchy Rules, one of the worst games on the Dreamcast in my opinion. 31%, and rightly so. Giant Killers, this is an interesting game. This is a PAL exclusive as well. This is the only, well, I say the only football management game, but there was the Let's Build a Soccer team games on the Japanese games, so I don't know how they compare, but this was like basically the only hardcore, genuine management game in the mould of, say, Football Manager or something like that, or Premier Manager. And again, it's one of those games that's becoming quite sought after just because it's a PAL exclusive. Might got 70%. Ducati World, another one of those games which I listed in my top 10 worst games on the Dreamcast. This got 30%. That's probably quite high. It's the only racing game that I've ever played where you can just ride on the walls and upside down inside tunnels when you're not meant to be able to do this. Obviously in things like F-Zero X, that's part of the game, but not in Ducati World. Typing of the Dead, great game. Got 88%. This is the interact section. I'm just going to fly through this now. Letters page, reader reviews. Obviously because the Dreamcast can go online, and you still can if you look at some of the other articles on the Dreamcast Junkyard. You can still go online with your Dreamcast, with your dial-up modem. The information is all on the website. It's really cool to do so. Obviously, don't expect to be able to look at everything online because the Dreamcast browser is so out of date now that a lot of stuff doesn't load. But it's still quite cool. You can do that. Cheats, questions and answers. A guide to Phantasy Star Online. Quite a hefty guide actually. Page after page after page of Phantasy Star Online. Then we come to the back now, we've got the directory. One thing I do like about leafing through these magazines is that I can remember stuff that is listed in the side, like there's cultural things like the music releases and the films that were coming out at the time. And I can remember being there, do you know what I mean? And it's like a real nostalgia trip. For example, Manic Street Preachers' Know Your Enemy album review. I can remember buying that album in HMV in Manchester. I can remember films like Charlie's Angels coming out, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I think that had Al Pacino in it, or Robert De Niro. Yeah. Happily I didn't watch that in the cinema, but yeah. So yeah, it's quite a trip. A Titan A I watched at the cinema. American Psycho, I remember that, obviously. Yeah, amazing nostalgia trip. And yeah, this was quite interesting. Mobile phone here. It's a Philips mobile phone with a WAP internet. And it was that new at the time that there was no cost for it because it hadn't been announced yet. Also, this LCD TV here. This screen is 4x3 and it looks quite small. I'm going to say it's probably about 15 inches or something like that. It looks like a portable TV. Look at the price though. You probably can't see it on the video. The price here is £1,299.99, which is just mind-blowing when you think about it now. You can get a 4K TV for half of that now. A proper 50-inch one. Amazing, really. Yeah, next month we've got previews of Black and White. Again, didn't come out. A preview of Agartha again. Monkey Ball, or as it's called here, Monkey Balls. And I'm pretty sure that was never actually going to come to the Dreamcast. I think it was just the arcade version. We'll find out in the next video, I suppose. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this issue of the magazine. The next one came out on the 19th of April 2001. And the back page has a big advert for Giant Killers. So yeah, that is issue 20 of Paragon Publishing's Dreamcast magazine. Thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see any of the scans, then head to the Dreamcast Junkyard website. You can just type Dreamcast Junkyard into Google, or just the word Dreamcast. In some cases it'll pop up. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.